Can you tell us what you're doing right now in terms of removing the individual tiers of the beehive? I'm not sure that's the right word.
If you can see the two bottom boxes, this is their honey. This is the honey that they have produced. Now I have changed this to a deep body, but normally it's a lot shorter and called a super. And anything that is on this, above the two boxes, is able to be harvested. So I'm taking the frames out because this is the fall crop of honey. I didn't keep stacking and stuff, but that's what they're doing. They're working on accumulating more. But everything in the two bottom will last them through the winter, and this is the time that the nectar is starting to dwindle. So the hummingbirds are migrating. There's not as much food for the bees, and so we start feeding them now to make sure that they have enough to make it through the winter.
So you can kind of follow a little bit of what's going on in the rest of Mother Nature by when the hummingbirds come, they're coming because the nectar is available.
Yeah.
And so the bees are okay to be doing certain things at that time of the year. And then when the hummingbirds are getting ready to leave, you can kind of observe that and know that you have another step in there that's ready to be accomplished by you as a beekeeper. Does that make sense?
Well, you have to when hummingbirds don't store food, so they have to constantly have nectar. So when the nectar runs out to the north, then they start going south, and they follow the nectar until they can winter somewhere. And when they start coming up, your nectar flow is going to be here for the bees too. And then when the hummingbirds start migrating, your source is dwindling.
So the bees can stay over the winter because they have their own super, is that what you called it?
No, deep body.
Their deep body that stores their food for the winter. So that gives them a little bit of a staying power. Does that sound right?
They can survive a winter with 2 deeps full of honey.
What kind of equipment do you have to have in order to do beekeeping? I mean, I see special tools we have here, and you have your bee box, and you have your smoker, and of course the magic bee suit. We have to have that. Are there other kinds of equipment that you have to have in order to maintain your bee boxes?
Your smoker and your tool, if I had nothing else but those two, I would have to have those. Now there's a few cutesy things that I've tried, don't like, don't need. I have yet to use a queen catcher, because I don't mark my queens. A lot of people want them so they can find them, because they are hard to find. But there's a lot of options, and if you want to, you can use it, and if you don't, then you can do, or like my bee suit, I decided not to get a bee suit. This is the only thing I was extra was this, for the simple reason that they found that little hole where it buttons. And they could find that place. So if you want to, that's a good solid, if you want to take that and just lift it up and put it in the other.
This one's really big.
But that one's pretty cool.
Yes,
so,
it is. I feel like I'm really a part of the bee community here now. Done my first official bee activity. That's kind of fun. Well, I noticed before we started today, you took us into your bee shed, and I noticed that you have everything in there very clean and very immaculate because you're using that to clean, and sanitize your bees. Can you talk a little bit about that process?
There are some places, bee associations, that have kitchens that you can take your frames to process your honey and stuff. Muhlenberg, I think, is the closest one, but
it sounds like a lot of trouble.
Well, and you have to load up all your supers and everything that has honey in it that you want to process to take with you. Well, from the other master gardener, when I got equipment, I got an extractor which takes the honey out of the comb, and a filter and stuff, so I had the ability or the equipment to process here. Because of that, and you get enough bee stuff that you start running out of room in your shed. And so I decided to get another shed for the excess. Come to find out, it was clean. I sealed up all the holes and used it to process so that it would remain clean. And there wasn't any dirty tools in there, there wasn't anything that, so it started out clean and trying to maintain it so that my honey would be uncontaminated.
Do you think that your beehives have been successful for you? I know you said you were doing some getting honey from your hives and setting up possible sales for your honey. I know that's kind of a byproduct of why you originally started, but how do you determine in your own mind how successful your beekeeping business, so to speak, is?
Well, like you said, I didn't start out with beekeeping in mind. I started out as a master gardener, and this was a natural step because of my garden, and not because I wanted to be a beekeeper. I wanted something to pollinate, and last year it was a better year, and I had a whole lot more of a garden than I got this year. So in that process, last year I had a whole lot of a better garden, and I think a whole lot of that was because of my bees. This year was rainy until late. I didn't get as much out. I didn't get out into the yard like I normally would. So there was a lot of drawbacks this year. But this was also my first year of being able to process honey. So the honey made up for the vegetables, basically.
Can you tell us how far out the bees go? If you have a yard and you're keeping bees, they're not going to stay there in your yard. So how far do the bees fly out and seek their pollen?
They will fly up to 3 miles. Now they have gone as far as 6 miles, but it's really hard being weighed down with pollen and nectar to fly back that 6 miles. So they try to stay within a 3-mile radius. Even when Dan was opposed to, was kind of afraid of bees, and he was afraid that they would swarm him every time he tried to mow around them and stuff. And we found out that we hardly see a bee.
Really?
It's rare that they are up at the house, or I see them occasionally on some of the blooms and stuff, and sometimes on the clover. But for the most part, we don't hardly see a bee. Out of 2 boxes, you hardly see a bee.
Do you have any idea why we're not seeing bees as much?
Yeah, because we have a thing that was, I think it was imported, a garment called a verosimite that attaches itself to the thorax of the bee and gives the bees diseases and kills them. Then we have the sudden death syndrome, basically, that the whole box just dies and nobody knows why. But the days of being able to just leave your bees alone and let them do, and survive or not, is if you want to keep them, then you've got to take care of them. You feed them. You don't let them starve.
So this is not a hobby where you can decide when you want to do things. The bees are kind of deciding for you, aren't they?
There are certain months that are better for certain things. Like this is the month to draw your fall harvest off and start feeding. I will feed clear through next spring. And I know last winter we had some really hard winter, and a lot of people, some beekeepers lost every hive they had. Some of the bees keepers lost half, And I was fortunate enough I didn't lose any of them.
So you don't really do anything to come out and protect them from the environment. You're just being sure that they're being fed throughout the winter. And
right.
So even if it snows a foot deep, you're still going to have to trudge out here and put some sugar water out for the bees.
Depending on how often you check while the weather is nice, you don't want to open a box when it's 45 degrees or less. The bees are going to be huddled. They need to keep the warmth in there. And that's one of the things that if you go ahead and just pop it open a little bit to see if they have sugar water, you could do more damage. So those kind of things and information is what you learn in bee schools, and not to make those mistakes in order to prevent losing your bees.